Love, exciting and new.
Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever.
It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships of Bermudan and British Registry.
This episode is brought to you by Abercrombie. Build your fits of the day with Abercrombie's newest denim drop. Here's where to start. Abercrombie's 90s straight jean goes with any shirt from tees to sweater polos. Super versatile. Their loose and baggy jeans are more trend forward, so you can grab those and go out with your friends. Abercrombie's denim fits come in a range of washes. Build your looks around Abercrombie denim. Shop online or in store.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
And welcome everyone to another edition of No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm your host. To my right is the next offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are we doing tonight?
Doing all right. We're going to run the ball. We're going to bring some exciting changes to the Seahawks offense. When you got a player like K9, you got to use him in spite of injury. We're going to get K9 and Sharps going. We're going to do reverse screens. I got a whole bunch of things planned. I'm doing all right. I can't keep it going for much longer.
Surprising, baby.
Surprising firing, to say the least. I just might get into it a little bit later in the show, but I am thrilled to be here back on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel with you here tonight. How are you?
I am too. You know, it's the day I was hoping to get things going. Yes, last night, but I had a lot of schoolwork to take care of. So, you know, Dustin is flexible, which is great having him as a co-host because he's flexible, and we can wait a day to talk everything. Well, not just about everything from Week 18 in the NFL. A lot of postmortem for some teams moving on to the playoffs. We're going to talk about all that and more in just a brief moment. But before we do that, we just want to remind you about
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from
I hit the wrong button. I'm stupid. Forgive me, folks. What you really want to do is follow us. Follow No Credentials Required on social media at facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, Twitter, Instagram, and scarcely is TikTok at NoCredsREQ, and youtube.com/@NoCredsREQ. And on the podcast side, subscribe to our podcast wherever you podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and Pandora. And don't forget to get yourself notified on Twitter. I still refuse to call it X. And on YouTube. That way you know when hit the notification bell on both the Belly Up Sports YouTube page, which is where we are broadcasting from right now. We're also on the Belly Up Facebook page. But also hit No Credentials Required. Hit the notification bell on both Twitter and on YouTube. That way you know when new videos are up, when the show announcements are up, anything related to the show, hit that notification bell. That way you know. And on both the podcast side and on the YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff side, we're live. And on the podcast side, rate, review. If you're on Spotify, comment on the show. Comment on the most recent show. You can also comment in past episodes. Also, if you're watching live on Belly Up Sports, the YouTube page, and on Facebook, engage with us. We are a live show. And Dustin, guess what I found lying around the dumpster?
What'd you
just
find?
Waiting to be picked up. And I can tell, you know what time it is?
Yeah. It's chime time.
Yeah, it's back. Oh, yeah, baby. Again, we're a live show. We're usually on Tuesdays. We're going to move to 6:30 p.m. starting next week. We're on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. Engage with us. Engage with the show. Leave a comment. The live comment. We got some comments coming in already from our friend Sap. The pink can of Sapna saying, "Sports ball!" Julie from Michigan, excited to be here. I suspect she says, "Hello, gentlemen." Our friend Stacy Morgan from Morgan Man Sports. I want to bring him up. He's a cool guy. He's a cool guy.
We got to do it.
He's a big Falcons fan, and he says, "Happy Wednesday, guys. He's hoping it's been a good one. Hate that my Falcons are not in the playoffs, but we can bounce back next season." We're going to talk about that, actually. I'm excited for your Falcons, man. I'm super excited for your Falcons. And Julie also says, "I am here for Ryan's mock fest of the Vikings." Well, it's not so much a mock fest of the Vikings. I'll talk about that when we get to our biggest disappointment. But before that, let's get into everything that happened. Most everything that happened in Week 18 in the NFL. We're going to start with. That's not the one I want. This is the one. See, everything's messed up now. They moved everything to Belly Up Sports. Biggest upset of week number 18. And I don't have the banner set up. Doggone it. Anywho, Dustin, biggest. Let's start with biggest upset. Biggest upset of week 18. We'll switch around. I'm a little discombobulated because I'm still working the things out on the new site with Belly Up Sports, StreamYard, not our own. So we're gonna start with that. Biggest upset you thought of week 18?
Well, to me, there's only one game, and those of you who have watched the show for a long time, if you're new watchers and or listeners, welcome. But those of you know that Ryan and I who have been with us for a while, know that Ryan and I really try not to pick the same game. But there's going to be some overlap this week, okay? I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it.
Right. If you don't like it, get your own show. Get your own show. Stay with us.
Yes. But there weren't that many. There wasn't really an upset to pick except for one. Since the Commanders were able to eke out a win over the Cowboys with Marcus Mariota under center for the majority of the game, which almost cost me my fantasy championship matchup. Why were we playing in week 18? Ask the league commish. But I did win, for those of you who are curious. And
Dustin,
but
I also won. Won our
very good.
League, baby.
Very good. There we go.
He's back. He's back.
We're back. But the Bears over the Packers was the only game to pick for this one. Okay. Now I understand, and I know. I have a feeling Ryan may have some thoughts. So I'm going to leave some space for him to expound as well. But let me hit some major points of why this was so shocking. One, you might say, well, Jordan Love was out of this game early. Okay, Jordan Love. And that's true. He was out of this game. He went down. I did not catch up on what sort of injury it was. I hope he's okay for the playoffs.
It's a hand injury. He's questionable
as
of last week, but I'll do some real-time research and figure out if he's still
questionable.
Questionable.
Okay. So while you're doing that, let me just say, Malik Willis, people might laugh at me a little bit here, but people forget that for about 3 games, Malik Willis led the Packers to victories, and they weren't meaningless games either. It was easier. It was early in the season, and Malik Willis helped the Packers keep afloat while Jordan Love was out. They ran the ball a ton, but Malik Willis also ran with his legs and got things going and threw enough passes to keep defenses honest. Okay, Malik helped the Packers win a couple of games. So it's a loss for the Packers to have Jordan Love go out, but Malik Willis had proven earlier in the season that he can keep the ship afloat. Okay. And also, one of the main things, aside from the Bears being an absolute dumpster fire after a decent start to the season, people forget that. I think at one point they were 4-3. They were kind of starting to put something together, and then all the wheels just fell off all at once. But interim head coach Thomas Jones, he made a decision. He's come on under fire, I think, a little bit in Chicago for some of the decisions that he's made since he took over as coach. Maybe he needs a little bit more experience, but he made a decision that it baffled me. It baffled the announcers. So the Bears score. Then they decide to go for 2. Okay. They decide to go for 2. And then the Packers get a penalty, which puts the Bears at the 1-yard line. And Thomas Jones goes, nope, we're going to kick the extra point. We're going to kick the extra point. We're not going to go for 2 now that we're obscenely close, even though we were going to go for 2 when we were further away from the end zone. Color me baffled. And in spite of decisions like this from one coach, Thomas Jones, the Packers were still able to come out with a win, or the Bears, rather, were still able to overcome the Packers because they left too much time on the clock, and the Bears were able to go down and win the game. It was unbelievable. It was a big shock to me.
Yeah, this was it's funny. We talk about, and I might as well say it too. There's definitely gonna be some overlap in this one because we picked a lot of similar. We had a lot of similar picks for each category. This was one of them because the Bears broke 2 streaks, and they're looking to break 2 streaks in this game. The first was their 10-game losing streak this season. This team started 4-2, and we were talking about after week 6 how every single team from the NFC North could be in the playoff picture come the end of the season. Then that game in Washington, which we famously had our friend D. Willie on. By the way, happy belated birthday, D. Willie. He celebrated his birthday yesterday. After that game, the wheels just seemed to fall off the Bears. They seemed to try to get on track. They didn't get on track, and now they're back in a place where they're basically back to the drawing board. So they fired their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. He's gone midway through the season. And then Matt Eberflus, after that dreadful
Thanksgiving game.
His dreadful time management got him fired in a game where they could have beat the Lions. This was a winnable game against the Lions, but unfortunately, Matt Eberflus made mistakes and defended him and had the audacity to defend his mistake.
Oh man, he doubled down. He doubled down,
and it got him. And Ryan Poles fired him. We'll see if he still has a job after this week. But right now, all indications are saying, he's still going to be here. But this was my biggest upset this week because the Bears were looking to break that 10-game losing streak. They're also looking to break an 11-game losing streak to the Packers. The Packers have been their daddy for the last 11 games, stretching back to 2018. Which is the last time they beat them. On my brother's birthday, mind you. My brother Jim's birthday.
Oh, man.
In December 2018. So the last 11 games in a row, the Packers have owned the Bears. The Bears offense, like they have been all season, it struggled. Struggled. The Bears had only 224 total offensive yards. And one of those touchdowns was off a 90-plus yard punt return on basically a trick play. A trick play. And the thing though is that sometimes you need a break in order to get off the schneid. You need a break. Jordan Love went out of the game, hand injury. Christian Watson tore his ACL. He's done till probably mid-season in 2025. But no, it could surprise us, come back in training camp. ACLs are a tricky thing. Remember Jerry Rice? You probably didn't follow football when Jerry Rice tore his ACL in week 1 of the 1998 season, I believe, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That was right about the time that I was getting in. So I might have, I seem to remember something about this, but he wasn't on the Raiders by then, was he? Because did he go to the Raiders? He went to the Raiders like before the 2001 season, I think.
No, it was after. It was shortly after the Buccaneers won their Super Bowl.
Okay,
because he was drafted in '95. I wanted the Jets to pick him up. Back in 1995, unfortunately, he got picked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think the Jets wound up picking Kyle Brady, if I'm not mistaken, in that draft. So, regardless, that's. But I remember Jerry Rice had torn his ACL in week 1 against the Buccaneers in 1998. And he was back by week, I think, 12 or 13 of that season.
Man.
Like, he worked his ass off to get back into, literally and figuratively speaking, to get back in the lineup. And he was back in the lineup and, like, just tore it up for another, I think, 10 seasons after that? So, so crazy. So we can see Christian Watson back in training camp. It's just the way that it just depends on how hard he wants to work for it. So
yeah, and you never and I mean you never know. Everybody's body reacts differently and stuff, and we would be remiss. You know, you may be a fan of him, you may not be a fan of him, but we would be remiss if we did not mention Terrell Owens coming back for the Eagles in that 2004 season. That was unbelievable.
With a broken freaking leg.
Yeah, yeah.
In the words, shout out to Kurt Angle. But you talk about this game, and two turnovers nearly killed the Bears. I mean, this has been their bugaboo all season, has been turnovers. One of them coming late in the game, super late in the game, in their own territory, which led to a field goal by Brandon McManus. However, Packers, that's way too much time on the clock. The Bears still had under a minute left.
Yeah, was it like 54 seconds or
54 seconds remaining, and they still had one timeout. So they had time. They had time to get guys, for Caleb Williams to hit receivers, and for the receivers to run out of bounds, or hit them in midfield. He can call timeout or spike the ball. It was fine. He was doing things, and this is the second time this season that he's led the Bears on a drive on a 1 minute drill to get the game winning or game tying field goal. In this case, it was the game winning field goal at the death, which means it's British sports speak for with 0 time left on the clock. FYI, YouTube and Facebook. Nothing of the sort. Don't ban us. But the Bears ended their 2024 campaign when they win. Not only did they win, but they also knocked the Packers, who were the 6th seed coming into this game. They knocked them down to number 7 because the Washington Commanders won in Dallas. They held up their end of the deal. They had to win, had the Packers lose to get the number 6 seed, which means Green Bay, possibly without Jordan Love, possibly without Malik Willis. He's also listed as questionable with a sore right thumb. So no Christian Watson. Jordan Love's questionable. Malik Willis is questionable. And I looked in the depth chart of the Green Bay Packers on ESPN.com. They have no third quarterback listed on the roster. So
man.
I'm going to look on the Packers website.
Yeah, it could
find out if they have a third quarterback on the roster somewhere.
You know what it is with the season that he's had. I'm not surprised if they were just going to be like, hey, Josh Jacobs, get back there and throw the ball too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and even on their website, they have no third quarterback listed. So I suspect that Jordan Love will probably play this week.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens with him and Malik Willis. If not, he's not going to play. Malik Willis will probably play.
Yeah,
but
I mean it's the playoffs.
Find a third quarterback. They got to find a third quarterback quickly. I hear Matt Ryan's hasn't put in his retirement. Is it his retirement paperwork with the NFL yet? So,
man, no shade to Matty, no shade to Matty Ice, but that last season with the Colts, I think that proved that his days might be done.
Imagine being the quarterback who had the 2 biggest comebacks against his team in NFL history. Ugh. He was part of 2 of them. Yeah. The Super Bowl against the Patriots and against the Vikings in 2022. So that was just incredible. Incredible. All right, we're going to move on to that's not it. This one. Like I said, new setup, folks. Don't mind me. Most entertaining game of week 18. And I'm going to say, I'm going to take it here.
Yeah.
There were 2 games that were very entertaining.
Of course.
And these were the 2 games I had my eye on Saturday. And I had that because these 2 games would decide the NFC South. Panthers, Falcons, Buccaneers, Saints. And I was on the call with Snowman. He asked me to jump in during his Sunday football extravaganza Like they do like kind of their own version of Red Zone live stream, and we keep up with the scores and everything. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So Snowman, if you're watching, shout out to you. Thanks for inviting me on. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, shout out to Snowman. I've tuned into a couple of his alternative play-by-plays before. He does a great job.
Yeah, he does an excellent job. So I had my eye on both these games, and they turned out as good as I hoped for them to be. Because one game was a shootout. Panthers-Falcons was a shootout. And it was just really fun to keep track of what Bryce Young and Michael Penix were doing, matching each other touchdown for touchdown. While in Tampa, the Saints were giving the Buccaneers a run for their money. They had a 10-point lead going into halftime. It was 16-6 at the half.
Yep.
Buccaneers fans are like, what's going on? What is happening here? But to their credit, after the second half, the Saints only allowed 3 points. So the Buccaneers defense, only allowed 3 points. They outscored the Saints 21-3 in the second half. Baker Mayfield threw 3 touchdowns, and the Buccaneers won the game. More importantly, they won their 4th division title because at that time, the Falcons and the Panthers are going to overtime. And the overtime game was just to watch that entire sequence, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And Morgan Man, Mr. Stacy Morgan chimed in and said, and was really bumming out about his Falcons. But I gotta say, the future is bright. The future is bright. In the NFC South in particular, I think you got Bryce Young in Carolina, who had a really rough season and a half with the Panthers, but seemed to kind of put it together after he got benched and Andy Dalton took a step back. They brought him back into the lineup, and it showed in this game. Yeah, Michael Penix tossing on the football. If they can get another quality receiver in that system, Atlanta's offense is going to be dangerous next year. Super dangerous.
Oh my goodness! I mean that's Atlanta kind of frustrated me, and the thing is, here's where some of the overlap comes in, right? Because I figured to myself, I said, okay, if Ryan picks Bucks Saints, I'm gonna pick Falcons Panthers, and I said if he picks Falcons Panthers, I'm gonna pick Bucks Saints. But when I saw the show rundown, I'm like, oh man, he kind of picked them both. So I was like, I'm just doubling down on Panthers Falcons. To me, this was far and away. Now the Seahawks Rams game, that was a back and forth affair. I have mixed feelings on that. If you want to hear more on that game, tune in to Seahawks Sessions, which is another podcast I'm on Friday. But Panthers Falcons was running away with it because you are exactly right. The duel between Bryce Young and Michael Penix was something to watch. And I, for one, we all laughed at Atlanta when they drafted Michael Penix, number 8 overall, after signing Kirk Cousins to that massive contract. But guess what? They might have seen something we didn't because Penix looks ready. I know it's a small sample size, but the thing is, and he's going to make his mistakes. But in the short time that I've seen Penix play, he's not getting rattled. Okay. It seems like he keeps calm no matter what the situation is. He came up with big play after big play to match Bryce Young and tie the game. Drake London was an absolute beast in this game. You just might hear more about him later in the show, but you are exactly right. This game was everything you wanted. I always use the example, and I can't take credit for it. I think it was originally Matthew Berry on the ESPN Fantasy Focus Football podcast. He used to say, if you wanted to show aliens what football was and why you watched football and you had them come down, this would be one of the games that you show them. This would be why you show them. And this take might be scorching hot, Ryan, but I wouldn't be if Bryce Young won Comeback Player of the Year, I wouldn't sneer at it. There are other better candidates, but an argument could be made because Remember how bad seemingly he looked and just how out of it he looked. And apparently through it all, he kept his head up. He kept trying. Reports have come out that he's been nothing but a great teammate, approaches everything with a smile. So I, for one, am very happy to see Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers overall. You're starting to see they have some talent. They're not going to be, they might not take a leap next year, but they're not going to be an easy out next year. That's for sure. No. And I got it. I mean, this game was fantastic. The only thing that was kind of bummed me out is because of the results of Bucs Saints. You could see the Falcons looked a little deflated when overtime started because I think they realized their season was over. But I'm with you. If they get another receiving threat and if they can figure out how to unlock Kyle Pitts for real next year, look out, because the Falcons are going to be ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And just a small note on Bucs Saints. Props to the Bucs for pulling it out, because initially the Bucs were going to be on my list of biggest disappointment. They had a punt that went off the back foot.
Oh my God, that was terrible.
Baker Mayfield missed Mike Evans wide open for a touchdown. I'm talking wide open. He overthrew him badly. They looked sloppy in the beginning, and I thought they were going to gack this game away. And props to them for turning it around.
Yeah, speaking of that Mike Evans situation, watching the end of that game, I'm going, what are they doing? Because on the local Fox affiliate, they did not show the Giants and Eagles game.
I know. Uncle Al was not happy about that.
Why? Why wasn't he happy? I don't understand.
Well, he just texted me. He said, the Giants suck when you can't even find the game locally.
No, because they played Saints and Buccaneers.
Yep.
And the Buccaneers forced an out on fourth down against the Saints, right? The Saints could have still tied the score. They could have. It was 27-19. When they took over with under 3 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
They're still trying to tie the score, trying to get game tying touchdown. Buccaneers defense has been frustrating them because Spencer Rattler, I think it was 21 of 28 in the first half.
Yeah.
He had crazy stats. They were throwing the ball around everywhere in the first half. The Saints were. So they figured it out. The Buccaneers defense figured it out pretty quickly. That's another guy to watch in the NFC South, Spencer Rattler. Watch out for him. He might be the future of the Saints might be the future Saints quarterback you got there right there. We'll just figure out. They just got to figure out head coaching position first. Excuse me. But that Mike Evans thing, he still had, I think, 5 yards to get to 1,000 to get his $3 million bonus.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, I'm sitting there going, why are they going for it on 3rd and 7 with with like 10 seconds remaining? Like, why are they lining up in pass formation? I don't understand. Just kneel it. But what I didn't understand coming into this game is that he was X amount of yards short of 1,000 yards to get his $3 million bonus and become only the second player in NFL history to start his first 11 seasons with 1,000-yard receiving. I didn't realize that. So when they went for that pass formation, they were short of the first down actually, but Mike Evans got his 5+ yards, gets the $3 million bonus. More importantly, ties the record with the great Jerry Rice. Mike Evans, future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, for sure. Oh,
first
my
ballot.
goodness.
If he's not first ballot, shame on you, NFL. First of all. Second of all, unless Mike Evans does something really, really bad, like Michael Vick bad, or Adrian Peterson bad.
Yeah.
He's getting the Hall of Fame. But from all indications, he's kept his nose clean as a member of the NFL. Not really done a whole lot wrong. But great congratulations to Mike Evans. Your extra $3 million, but more importantly, that record, that 11 consecutive seasons of 1,000 yards receiving.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you for that.
That's a great accomplishment. And there were a couple big bonuses handed out, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. I believe one Geno Smith got $6 million in bonuses for hitting various incentives. Over 4,000 yards passing, check. Over a 69% completion percentage,
Nice.
check. Leading the Seahawks to 10 wins or more, check. Geno got $6 million extra bucks from the Seahawks. He had a lot. He had a lot on the line in that Rams game, and let me tell you, he played like it.
Yeah.
Man.
Congratulations to your Seahawks for upsetting the Rams, even though the Rams didn't play.
Yeah.
Here's what
I don't count it. I don't count it.
I know
Jimmy
you don't
G was in
count it.
there.
Check your panties, ladies.
Oh man, coming with the heat, Ryan.
I forgot that soundbite. But no. I gotta say though, here's the thing: the Rams still had a seed to play, had a playoff seed to play for, which is what I understand. I understand resting your starters,
Yeah.
but at the same time, this was an important game because we still had to figure out all these seeds in the NFC. Why aren't you playing your starters for at least a half, and then give them rest for the rest of the game? Like Josh Allen had a cup of coffee in the first drive against the Patriots, and then said, "All right, see you later."
Yeah.
wait till next week.
Yep.
But this is the way the NFL is in 2024.
It's baffling sometimes.
All right. Speaking of which, biggest disappointment of Week 18. Dustin, I'm gonna have you lead off here before I'm gonna have you warm me up before I hit my biggest disappointment.
All right.
I'll have you lead off. Go right ahead. Warm me up, son.
I'll be the sous chef before you cook. All right. So here we go. I am going to go from complimenting a current Seahawk on his quarterback play to admonishing a former Seahawk on his quarterback play. Now, on this show, I'm not sure how Ryan has felt about it, but I think he somewhat agrees with me. I have been extremely complimentary of Russell Wilson and his time in Pittsburgh since he took over as the starter. I have long bemoaned about how he played better his last year in Denver than people realize. He actually had them in playoff contention before he was benched in favor of Jarrett Stidham. So I have been ringing the bell for old number 3 in Seattle here. And, if I'm going to compliment him when he plays well, and George Pickens has caught some passes that most other receivers probably wouldn't catch. I know that.
Are we
but
sure?
Russell was playing well when he picked up and took over for Justin Fields early in the season. But this game, Russ laid an egg. There's no getting around it. He didn't throw any interceptions. However, he threw for, I believe it was 148 yards. 148 yards and 1 touchdown in a game that they needed, in a game that they have not. The Steelers have been on a 4-game slide now. 4-game slide. They have not looked very good at all. And 148 yards and 1 touchdown, but also he was 17 of 31. Just not crisp in a game that it had stakes for the Steelers. I mean, obviously the Steelers knew they were going to make the playoffs, but you had to win this game to kind of get your confidence back on track after losing 3 straight. You had to win this one, and you had to show up for this one. And Russ just hasn't looked good during this last run here for the Steelers. And it was pretty disappointing to see after a season which I've been largely complimentary about the way he has played and kind of revitalized himself. This was an egg. There's no doubt about it.
And his reward for laying that egg is to play the Baltimore Ravens again.
Oh, man.
One of the teams that I think that was the first loss that got them on that 4-game slide.
Yeah. It was it one of the Christmas Day games or was it before? It before that?
They played Kansas City but I
That's
believe
right.
it was one of the games before that.
It was. I think it was one of the first Saturday games. And
Yeah, because they lost to the Eagles, and they went to the Raven. They lost to the Ravens in Baltimore. They got smacked around in Baltimore.
Yeah, they were summarily dismissed by the Ravens.
Absolutely, and it showed too. I mean, it showed all game long. I mean, the final score definitely reflected that they did not play well. They did not.
Yeah,
play well.
and just to add one more thing, this is against a Bengals defense. Now, they did improve a little bit. They did improve a little bit over the course of the season, over the end of the season, but they still not a great defense. Couldn't stop a lot of teams. Guess what? The Bengals defensive coordinator is one of the people that unfortunately does not have a job after Black Monday. Okay. So that shows you where the Bengals defense was and is currently as constructed. And Russ still laid an egg against them.
Yeah. And your cohort, Kevin Wilson, fellow Seahawks fan, says, yeah, I like to argue with you, Dustin, but I can't.
Yeah. I know you're a big RW fan, Kevin, as am I. We're both thankful for what he did in Seattle, and he gets a lot of heat. Some of it deserved, some not. But can't defend him for this one.
Yeah. Much like Russell Wilson, Mr. Kevin Wilson is limitless. It's some more comments here. Julie from Michigan saying, I did not see that one coming in terms of regards to the Bears winning. I was watching that game. I was stunned over how well Chicago did. She also says they really set the tone with a 94-yard punt return touchdown. Absolutely. And our friend from Norway, friend of the show, Sick Diggy, saying, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening to you.
Good evening,
Sick. Mr.
Happy
Sick
to have
Diggy.
you.
Happy to have you. Absolutely. All right. I kind of alluded to it at the beginning of the show, but it's my turn. Talking about my biggest disappointment. The Minnesota Vikings not showing up on what was called the greatest regular season game ever in the history of ever. Much like a summer blockbuster with a bad rating on Rotten Tomatoes, so was this game. This game did not live up to the hype that it was provided to it. And we got to stop this. I know we live in a different time with media where we have to grab people's attention. All that clickbaity BS, the complete bollocks with clickbait and making sure people get clicks and views and this and that. This was one of those times where I was just like, I tuned out after some media outlet said this is the greatest regular season game in the history of NFL football. It's like, no, it's not. It's not. Stop saying that because you want attention. Mm-hmm. Yes, both teams had similar records coming into this game. They were both 14-2. Yes, this was for the number one seed in the conference. Yes, this was also for the division championship. But when one team fails to live up to the billing, now the Vikings, to their credit, kept it close in the first half. It got within 1 point of in this game. Get to within 10-9, right? But then here's what happens. Here's a sequence that happens against the in this game. Take it to the second half. Here's the play-by-play sequence. Here's a series sequence. Vikings start second half. Mm-hmm. They're down 10-6. Turnover on downs. Then they force an interception, which becomes a field goal. So they get to win 10-9. Here's the rest of the game. Touchdown for the Lions. Missed field goal for the Vikings. Touchdown for the Lions. Punt for the Vikings. Touchdown for the Lions. Turnover on downs. End of game. Aaron Glenn is a head coaching candidate for a lot of teams for a reason. Yeah. This game was one of those reasons. Because with the patchwork defense, basically, with all the injuries that they've had over the second half of the season, starting with that blowout in Dallas on Jerrald's birthday, when Aiden Hutchinson went down for the rest of the season. And by the way, there's talk about him returning for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true because I've never had a fractured tibia and fibula, so I can't tell you what's going to happen. But look, what this just tells you about the depth that this team has. This tells you about the belief that they have in their head coach Dan Campbell, who every Miami Dolphins fan is ruining that Stephen Ross and Chris Greer let go. He was a coaching intern. He was a coaching intern with the Miami Dolphins. They let him go.
Yeah.
They let him ride somewhere else, and now he's a head coach. He is 2 games away from the Detroit Lions' first ever Super Bowl. So, if you want to talk about kicking yourself in the rear right now, talk to the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Which I'm not disappointed in their ending.
That was a little Ted DiBiase-ish almost. You got there. There you go.
Money.
That was a good one. That's one of my favorite wrestling theme songs.
Oh
Did we do an episode about that? Yes.
I believe we have. Yes.
We did.
Yes, we did. But Minnesota Vikings, man, if you did not live up to the hype of this game. You did not show up in the second half. You scored 3 points. 3. This was an offense that had been kind of just, I wouldn't say going through the motions all game, but yeah, I mean, they were going through the motions pretty much the entire game. They were 0 for 2 on 4th down.
Yeah.
They could not take advantage of that. I mean, they took advantage of that interception they had to get on Jared Goff. Jared Goff had an off game. Jahmyr Gibbs, man, whew. You know, talking about Sonic filling in for the Sonic and Knuckles portion. But yeah, it goes back to belief, and Dan Campbell has this team believing, has that city believing, that this team can go all the way.
Yeah.
3 seasons ago, they were 3-13, 3-13-1. Then they went 8-9. Last year they were 3-13-1.
Yep.
And they were 8-9. Last year, I think they finished 12-5 last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yeah.
And they finished 15-2 this year. They scored the 4th most points in NFL history in the regular season.
Man,
If I'm not mistaken.
I
heard that somewhere this morning on a podcast, but yeah, this city, our friend Julie in the chat from Michigan.
Oh yeah.
She's very happy about the results. And Kevin chiming in is saying, did that game completely undo all the good that Sam Darnold did this season? I don't think it does. I mean, but here's the thing. The Minnesota Vikings have a hard mountain to climb. Mm-hmm. The only way they can finish with a home playoff game is in the NFC Championship if either Washington or Green Bay advances to the NFC Championship with them, because they're the 5 seed. Yeah. So whoever lost this game was going to be the 5 seed. But yeah, I don't blame it on Sam Darnold particularly. I just think this team was outcoached. The Minnesota Vikings were just completely outcoached. They were playing in front of a hostile crowd at Ford Field, and it was just disappointing because it didn't live. I thought it was going to be a shootout game, but it wound up being just that Kevin O'Connell got outcoached.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple.
And I don't know, and maybe Julie can let us know because she watches the Lions more than anybody. Yeah. But to my eye, Ryan, I didn't see all this game because I had some family stuff going on. I got back a little late, and but I saw some of it. And it looked to me like the return of Alex Anzalone or Anzalone. Yep. I'm not sure what the correct pronunciation is, but it seemed like he revitalized this defense and kind of like stabilized it. And his return seemed to have inspired them along with Aaron Glenn. You know, Aaron Glenn, do you think a la Joe Johnson from last year, or Ben Johnson, sorry. Ben Johnson from last year, their offensive coordinator. Do you feel like if Aaron Glenn is courted by teams, because he will be, do you think Detroit rolls out a checkbook to try to keep him, or do you think Aaron Glenn stays because he likes what they're building there? I don't know, but
Ben Johnson. Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
Ben Johnson was a head coaching candidate last year.
yes,
He decided to stay. He loves the environment. He loves the culture. He's part of the culture. I think Aaron Glenn. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's in Aaron Glenn's head. All I know is that 3 of the teams that he played for have who he played for in his career.
yeah.
3 of the 4, because he was with the Jets, he was with the Texans. I believe, if I remember correctly, he was one of the draft picks in the expansion draft for the Houston Texans.
You
He was
might
one of
be
the
right
first
about
ones.
that. You might be right about that.
also
I do
played for the-
remember him with the Saints, though. That's where I
also played for
remember
the
him
Saints,
most.
and he played for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh man, I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, so 3 of the 4 teams that have coaching vacancies in the NFL this season, he played for them. He was drafted by the Jets. He played in Houston in 2002. That was their inaugural season. He played for Dallas, then he played for Jacksonville, and ended his career in New Orleans. So, yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting offseason to see who's gonna court both Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. But I can't read their minds. But if they win a Super Bowl, if they don't win a Super Bowl, they stay. If they do win a Super Bowl, I think they'll take their talents else. I hate that expression. I think they'll want to being a head coach somewhere. Because I think the Jets got permission to speak with Aaron Glenn this week. I believe the Saints also got permission to speak with Aaron Glenn this week. So I don't know. But it's a huge compliment to what Dan Campbell has built in Detroit, for sure. All right. We're going to take a quick commercial break. But when we come back, we got more to talk about the NFL. Plus, we're going to talk about our favorite athletes to ever wear the number 2. We forgot to start off the show with that. It's on me. It's on me again.
No.
I'm still figuring this thing out with the new setup for Belly Up with a Belly Up Sports StreamYard page. But we'll be back in just a moment. Stand by and stay tuned for more No Credentials Required.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
Thank you, handsomely voiced voiceover. SeatGeek Premier. This is our title sponsor for Belly Up Sports for this episode. It is SeatGeek. Playoff football. You know what? You want to be there, especially if you live in the locales that are hosting this weekend. College football playoff semifinals of this week are this week. They're actually tomorrow and Friday. Sugar Bowl. I'm not the Sugar Bowl. Cotton Bowl. And the Orange Bowl, and the championship game. I forgot where it's being played, but I know my Penn State Nittany Lions are playing the Orange Bowl on tomorrow night against Notre Dame. So it'll be a fun game. But if you want to be there, I suspect there are probably tickets on sale. You can find them at SeatGeek.com. Use their pricing tool to find the best prices for your desired seats. And for $20 off your order of $50 or more, use promo code BellyUpSports at checkout. But not just football. Basketball, whatever. NBA, college basketball, NHL, but any sporting events, but it's not just sporting events. As that handsomely voiced man in the voiceover said, concerts, comedy shows, Broadway, Broadway. Anything that requires a box office ticket, you find it at SeatGeek.com. Again, use that pricing tool to get the best get the best price for what you want, and you save $20 off your order of $50 or more by using promo code BellyUpSports at checkout. Go ahead, SeatGeek.com, promo code BellyUpSports at checkout. All right, moving on to the most notable performance of Week 18. I've got two, and they come from the same game. We talked about him earlier, but I want to talk about him again. Bryce Young, Michael Penix. Listen to these stats. Bryce Young, 25 of 33, 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, with 15 rushes, 24 yards, 2 touchdowns of his own. He accounted for 5 of the Panthers' touchdowns in this. 5 of the Panthers' 6 touchdowns in this game he accounted for. On the other side of the ball, Michael Penix, 21 of 38, 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Also contributed 1 rush for 5 yards for a touchdown. Between the both of them, 8 touchdowns. 8 touchdowns, man, and over 560 yards passing. And the one I'm happiest for is Bryce Young. Because, like I said, in our most entertaining game, I'm super happy for the dude because of everything he's had to overcome so far in his young career as a member of the NFL. 3 coaching changes. This is believe it or not his third coach. Dave Cannell's his third coach.
It's ridiculous.
Which is totally ridiculous, especially for a guy who is in his second season, gets benched, learns the offense, and like you said, Dustin, has been nothing but a consummate professional. And this makes me wonder about because it's a glimpse of what's to come, especially in the NFC South, because it's been panned for so long because of how the division has been won a couple of years ago. Tampa Bay won it with an 8-9 record. That's Tom Brady's final season in the NFL. Got bounced in the wild card against Dallas in his last NFL game. We've talked about how bad the Panthers are. This season, we talked about how bad the Saints were. The Falcons were kind of middling, but I think they're on the way up. But I just have a lot of hope and to see what a glimpse of what's to come. Because you got to remember, Baker Mayfield isn't even 30 yet.
Oh, yeah.
Baker Mayfield, I believe he's 25 or 26.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't realize he was that young.
Yeah. I'm sorry, he's 29 years old. I apologize.
Oh, yeah,
but
he hasn't hit
30.
30.
He's not 30, but if I believe he signed an extension with Tampa Bay, so he'll be around at least one more season with Tampa Bay. But you've got Bryce Young. Get him an offensive line in front of him. He's got Chuba Hubbard. I know he was out the last couple of games this season, but he's got Chuba Hubbard as his primary running back to help him out, to complement him. Get an offensive line in front of him. Get him some more capable receivers. You're going to see a star in Carolina for years to come. Same with Michael Penix. Of course, we got Drake Young. You got Drake London. You got Bijan as his complimentary running back. Baker Mayfield, Bucky Irving, the rookie, who's on my fantasy team.
There you go.
And you've got, granted, he was put in a tough situation this year. Spencer Rattler showed glimpses of brilliance this season too as a rookie. So for me, I'm hoping our friend Stacey Morgan's still watching. I'm complimenting not only his team but that division. Period.
Yeah,
and I think we're gonna see some real rivalry, some real great quarterback play going forward in the NFC South with Young and Penix. Hopefully Spencer Rattler pans out, gets the right offensive coach around him, and with Baker Mayfield for another couple of years, which means the Buccaneers got to really think about what they want for the future.
Yeah,
maybe they draft a quarterback in this draft. We don't know, but that's my most notable performance or performances. Dustin, how about you?
Well, we said there were going to be some overlap. There was going to be some overlap. I'm picking different players, but I'm going back to the same game. And I am picking 2 Atlanta Falcons because both of these men performed so well that I couldn't just pick one. Drake London is up first. He had 10 receptions for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns. That's almost as much as some offensive teams had for totals this past week. Drake London, you saw what can be done when he is fully unlocked and he's got somebody getting him the ball. And then you already mentioned him a little bit, but I got to give a special shout out to the man that helped carry me to the fantasy title, Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson was unbelievable, and he has been unbelievable for most of the season for the Atlanta Falcons. He is another bell cow running back. He is the running back in Atlanta. Yes, they did use Tyler Algiers, not to the extent that they did when Arthur Smith was coaching them. Hello, Taglong.
Taglong has joined the chat. I'm the only one home, so yeah. So he's like,
he's in with you.
He's in with me. Usually he's with Shannon, but Shannon's at my parents currently. So
I thought it was the Bijan Robinson talk that lured him in there because Bijan Robinson had 28 carries for 170 yards and another 2 touchdowns. Okay. Yeah. Bijan has been
crazy,
very good, but because of the seasons that Derrick Henry and Saquon have had, rightfully so, I kind of feel like Bijan was a forgotten man down in the NFC South, but man, he was getting it done as well. The bell cow running backs are back, and I'm happy to see it. The value at the running position, running back is a valuable position. I'll say it. I've said it all season. I'll continue to say it. I was complaining about it last season. I'm a broken record, but I have a show that Ryan was kind enough to let me co-host. So here we are. But Bijan Robinson, Drake London, shout out to those 2 dirty birds down in Atlanta.
Yeah. I mean, look at this game. Both teams combined for over 960 yards of total offense. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was fun to watch too. Yeah. Just to keep an eye on during red zone. To keep an eye on this game. But man, I'm hoping the future's bright in that in that division because it's been made fun of for so long. So long. Yeah. And now we've got some very capable teams coming up in the ranks, but and especially on the offensive side of the ball. All right, our hottest individual takeaways from week 18, and I'm going to have Dustin start because I got a lot to say about an AFC East rival of mine, but I'm going to let Dustin start off with his hottest individual takeaway this week.
Well, again, I was incensed about what you're going to talk about as well, and I was going to go in on them, and I'm like, when I saw that you picked it as your hot take, I said, man, what am I going to pick? But then my Seattle Seahawks came out and did something that was very surprising to me.
Perplexing, some might say.
Yes, very. I am perplexed. And I know that you and I were talking about it when it happened, and my co-host on Seahawks Sessions, Daniel Smooth, he and I, of course, were talking about it. I'm sure Kevin will want to talk about it as well because this was surprising. Okay, the Seattle Seahawks, with first-year offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb, go to 10 wins, okay? Geno sets highs in passing yards. The passing attack looked great for the Seattle Seahawks. There were some growing pains, but you figure this is his first year. There's some progress, right? Wrong, because at 9 a.m. Pacific time, Ryan Grubb was let go, relieved of his duties as offensive coordinator in Seattle. Now, I know we will talk about this more on Seahawks Sessions, but there is just too much to talk about. We got to get into it here because this is my main show. This is my first love. So, of course, I'm sorry for the repeat Seahawks content. But again, Ryan, let me co-host this thing. I'm driving the bus in some of the directions that I want to drive it until Ryan takes the wheel. But I'm like Batman. I'm driving the bus. That's a Seinfeld reference if you all know. But anyway, it was a surprising firing, okay? I think the trigger was pulled much too fast, okay? Much too fast. This is his first year. Did Ryan Grubb have some things to learn about adjusting at an NFL level? Probably. But like I said, the offense didn't look inept under Ryan Grubb. There were slides later in the season. There were slides. But I am thinking, and I can't get into Mike McDonald's head, just like you can't get into Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn's heads. I can't get into Mike McDonald's head, but I did see some quotes about not being aligned with Ryan Grubb. And then he said, not that we weren't aligned with Ryan, but we want to find an offensive personnel that align with my vision for this team. What that translates.
Very intrigued.
Yeah.
He's got your attention. You guys' attention.
All right. But I say this, if I can only guess, it is because Ryan Grubb did not want to run the ball enough. Passing attack was good for the Seattle Seahawks, but they did not establish the run, and I think that's something that Mike McDonald wants to do. And I think that Ryan Grubb just didn't go to the run enough. But I will also defend Ryan Grubb here. Some of the ineptitude of the rushing attack was not on the offensive play calling, okay? The Seahawks offensive line at points this season, it has stabilized recently. As some people have gotten healthy. Lucas, I'm looking at you. The change at center has benefited the Seahawks offensive line and has stabilized it to some degree. But at points, their line was horrible. Remember when the Giants sacked Geno 9 times? Pepperidge Farm remembers, and I remember. So the offensive line play has been bad. And also injuries. Kenneth Walker missed some games this season. Charbonnet has looked good in his stead, but you can't blame not using Kenneth Walker effectively on Ryan Grubb, because Kenneth Walker wasn't on the field for some of the season. Okay, so I think that this firing, I think Mike McDonald got a little trigger happy with this one. I think Ryan Grubb deserved at least another year to kind of continue to grow and adjust and figure it out, but Mike McDonald and the Seahawks must have figured that it just couldn't be salvaged, and they got to bring somebody else in there. Who do I think they'll go get? You might have to tune into Seahawks session for that, but the short answer is I don't really know. I have one name in mind, but I don't even know if he'd want the job. This was very surprising to me. Very surprising.
So, Dustin, where can we find Seahawks sessions?
Sessions.
When is it?
It goes live. We're still working out the time, but it goes live to YouTube in the Time to BS with Staniel Smooth feed every Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes the time varies. We're still figuring it out, but 6:30 is the hopeful time. And you can find it in podcast feeds wherever podcasts are available, in the Time to BS feed as well. And I understand that he is also your co-host on another podcast that you do called the Three Rails Metro Hockey Podcast, which is that available in our feed, Ryan?
It absolutely is available on our feed, and you can find it wherever you find podcasts. We've had a couple of weeks off between the holidays and my getting work done, but and some other things going on. But we're gonna hopefully get back to it next week and talk about some of our teams. Some of our teams are having a rougher go than others. But I'm pretty sure that Brian and Staniel will have some things to say about their teams. Before I get into my hottest individual takeaway, I do want to go to the comments section. Sick Diggy singing the lyrics to the $1 Million Man theme song.
It's such a classic.
Everybody's got a price. Everyone's gonna pay, because the $1 Million Man always gets his way.
You do a good DiBiase, man.
Wait, there's more. Some might cost a little, some might cost a lot. But I'm the $1 Million Man, and you will be bought.
I think we need to get an asterisk signature laugh with music notes T-shirt. That's a great idea, Sick. That's a good one.
By the way, I dropped the link to our bonfire store in the chat. Dustin bought himself a shirt this week. Dr. Lady suggests she might buy a shirt. So support the show. Buy some merch.
Check it out.
Buy some merch, and hopefully we'll have more ideas on the way. Right now, we've only got a couple of shirts. One being just the OG logo. The other one being John Heyman's arson judge tweet that had him going to the Giants before Our Aaron Judge re-signed with the Yankees. Our Icon Sports silhouette, Icon Sports, is available. And we had that no shave November fundraiser, which is the one that Dustin bought yesterday. But
It's that Carolina blue.
Yeah, that Carolina blue, man, it hits every time. But hopefully we're gonna have some more campaigns on the way, so you can buy yourself some merch and help out the show. So Julie from Michigan, when we talked about the Lions and the Vikings, he says in regards to Jahmyr Gibbs, he's such a huge addition. I'm sorry, Anzalone was a huge addition to get back. David Montgomery will be a huge addition to get back as well. He'll be back in the divisional round.
Ooh. All right.
Good for him. Good. I'm just gonna that firebug from Family Guy.
I love that.
Good.
Yeah.
That might have to be an element.
Yeah.
Kevin Wilson saying the rumor is that Aaron Glenn will be the Saints' next head coach. Oh, we'll see. And Sick saying, "Welcome to the Seahawks detour, folks."
Sick knows it well. He sees the look in my eyes, the glint when it's coming.
It's that shimmer. All right, hottest individual takeaway for me. I call bollocks on Robert Kraft. And I'll tell you why. Going to the game, New England Patriots were assured the number one draft pick in the 2025 NFL draft with a loss. But the Bills wound up losing to the Patriots 23-19. And what was basically it was an afterthought for the Bills, but Jerrod Mayo wanted his team to finish strong, and it seemed like they did. Even though Jerrod Mayo took out Drake May after the first series after a cup of coffee, and put in Joe Milton, who had himself a pretty good game himself.
Yeah, he was running around back there.
Which got all the pundits on social media talking about the Giants trading for Joe Milton. It's like, come on! Come on! Let the ink dry in this season first before we discuss this hypothetical BS. Sorry, Taggle. I woke up Taggle long. He just wants to chill. Anyway, as soon as the final gun sounded on a second consecutive 4-13 record for the New England Patriots, Robert Kraft announced that Jerrod Mayo, head coach, would not be returning for the 2025 season. And here's the announcement on social media. This is the statement from social media. And I quote, "After the game today, I informed Jerrod Mayo that he will not be returning as the head coach of the New England Patriots in 2025. For me personally, this was one of the hardest decisions I have ever made. I have known Jerrod for I'm trying not to laugh right after that line. I have known Jerrod for 17 years. He earned my respect and admiration as a rookie in 2008 and throughout his career for his play in the field, his leadership in the locker room, and the way he conducted himself in our community. When he joined our coaching staff, his leadership was even more evident. As I saw how players responded to him. When other teams started requesting to interview him, I feared I would lose him and committed to making him our next head coach. Winning our season opener on the road at Cincinnati only strengthened my convictions. Unfortunately, the trajectory of our team's performance throughout the season did not ascend as I had hoped. Since buying the team, I've always considered myself and my family as the custodians of a public asset." I rolled my eyes really hard there. We have tremendous fans who expect and deserve a better product than we have delivered in recent years. I apologize for that. I have given much thought and consideration as to what actions I can take to expedite our return to championship contention and determined this move was the best option at this time. I'm grateful for Jerrod's many contributions to the New England Patriots throughout his career and will also always be rooting for his success. I appreciate all his hard work and hope the experiences gained will help him in the future, as I still believe he will be a successful head coach in this league. I wish Jerrod and his family nothing but success in the future. Signed, Robert Kraft, Chairman and CEO. End quote. Close quote. So like I said, the win and that win dropped the Patriots in the draft order from first to fourth. And I don't want to say that Kraft gave Mayo the Lovie Smith treatment, but I have to wonder, like many others, that Mayo is basically a placeholder.
Mm-hmm.
He's a placeholder because he knew Mike Vrabel was available after December 30th, as mentioned on this very program.
Yes.
Last Monday. And of course, this comes right after Vrabel interviews not only with the Bears, but his division rival and arch nemesis, my New York Jets. In the past, the Patriots already passed on Vrabel once. They actually interviewed him and wanted to bring him in for his head coaching role, but last year. But Jerrod Mayo was hired. But will Kraft do it a second time? And time will tell. I feel bad for Jerrod Mayo. He was handed a trash roster. An absolute trash roster.
Horrible.
From Bill Belichick's final seasons in New England. But he gets the ultimate success. An unemployment check from Robert Kraft for the next 4 years. So, yeah, I got to wonder, and I wonder if many other fans are kind of like,
yeah,
are we sure that Jerrod Mayo wasn't hired just to kind of just be a placeholder for whoever's going to coach next? Was it this bad? Was he that bad of a head coach?
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. And as you said, with that roster, there are few that could have done a lot. Because Bill Belichick, say what you want about him, he's one of the greatest coaches to ever do it. But his draft record in New England, he did well early, but he's struggled for a few years to put together a decent draft, and it showed on this roster. This roster is a bunch of also-rans and Drake May. I'm sorry, but that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it was terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. And I know people are saying Roger Goodell should do something about it, but he probably won't because he loves the Patriots so much. I say that a little sarcastic, tongue in cheek because of the Deflate Gate and all those other times the Patriots got in trouble but still managed to win a Super Bowl. So well. All right, we're gonna quickly transition. We're gonna keep this brief. I want to talk about the top of the hour, but I messed up, so we're gonna talk about the bottom of the show. Our favorite athletes. This is episode 2 of 2025. We're going to talk about our favorite athletes to wear the number 2. And again, the caveat is, as Dustin mentioned in the last episode, these are players we have had the chance to see, whether on our televisions or live in person. So I'm going to hand it over to Dustin, and he can explain his favorite number 2 and why.
Well, for me, and I suspect Ryan, but I don't know. Ryan has a habit of surprising me, but for me, I didn't even have to think about this one. My favorite player to wear number 2 is number 2, Derek Jeter. Jeter. Number 2.
Number 2.
Derek Jeter's ridiculous. I know Jeter gets a lot of haters, but Yankee fans love Jeter, and if you love baseball, you should have loved the way that Derek Jeter played the game as well. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. The stats speak for themselves. It was like a movie star. He got a hit in his final game, a milestone hit for that matter.
Not only a hit, but also the walk-off RBI. Yes,
that is right. I mean, he was clutch. He was as clutch as it could be. People could talk about his defensive metrics all you want, but that memorable image of his jump throw, Derek Jeter was the one that really trademarked that jump throw. And just so many postseason memories, so many memories of him coming up big. Troy Tulowitzki wore number 2, another great shortstop for the Colorado Rockies. He wore number 2 because of Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter impacted the game. He also played the game and seemingly did not let the pressure get to him in one of the biggest media markets in the entire world, in the country at least. Okay, Derek Jeter, number 2. It was a pleasure to watch him play. When he dove into the stands in a game in July while Nomar sulked on the bench, that is still one of my enduring memories. I will remember Derek Jeter for that for a long time. He was a member of the Core 4. My nostalgia is kicking in big time here, but as a long-time Yankee fan, I got to go with one of the greatest ever don the pinstripes. Number 2, Derek Jeter. It's not close. Loved watching him play. Took it for granted for a lot of years. Honestly. But Derek Jeter's the pick for me.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's a pick for you and a lot of single females back in the day in New York who allegedly
got a
nice basket for a one-night stand with Mr. Jeter back in his bachelor days.
And a ride home.
Yes, and a ride home. I mean, I would have picked Derek Jeter, but that would have been kind of chalk. It would have been kind of predictable.
Yeah.
I almost picked Doug Flutie because he wore number 2 as a member of the Toronto Argonauts during that dynasty years in the CFL in the mid-90s. Honorable mention, Slava Fetisov, the first Soviet Russian to break the barrier, defect, come to the United. He didn't really defect, but he was granted permission to play the United States for Lou Lamoriello, who wound up trading him away in 1995. And I'm still pissed at Lou Lamoriello for doing that. All 30 years later, I'm still pissed off at him for that because he should have won. He should have won the Stanley Cup in 1995 with the Devils, but unfortunately got swept as a member of the Detroit Red Wings. But we talk about Troy Tulowitzki, one of the best hitters in that era. I can't think of anybody who wore number 2 in the NBA. Joe Johnson, I guess, but he's kind of in that era. But I'm going to surprise a lot of people with my favorite athlete to wear number 2, and I talked about him earlier in the show.
All right,
Mr. Matty Ice, Matt Ryan.
Oh, there he is, Matt Ryan. That's a good pick.
One of the best. I mean, we talk about him having been on 2 teams who suffered the worst comebacks against them in NFL history, once in the Super Bowl, once in a regular season game in 2022 on a Saturday. But for those 2 things that he gets panned for, that gets absolutely gets roasted for, this was one of the best quarterbacks of the 2010s. Hands down. He was such a joy to watch on the play. And if you had him in fantasy for all those seasons, you were guaranteed at least 25 touchdowns every single season and over 3,000 yards passing. But it was not only was just the way he would perform in the field, but he was just so surgical. When he got hot, when he got in the right mind frame, and he had Julio Jones as one of the greatest receivers of that era, the 2010s, one of the best receivers of that era. That team should have won multiple Super Bowls. They should have beat Tom Brady in that game before that monstrous comeback. But once the Hightower got that strip sack on him, it was fait accompli. I said to myself, it's game right there. But Matt Ryan, and it's a shame that nobody wanted him after that season after 2022, because he would have been. I think the Jets should have signed him in 2023 after Aaron Rodgers went down. My humble opinion.
Yeah.
But he was in the 2010s was one of the best quarterbacks that nobody really talks about, because we talk about Aaron Rodgers. We constantly talk about Tom Brady. I'm sick of the conversation about Tom Brady. Okay, we get it. He's the greatest of all time. I get it. But Matt Ryan just seems to never be in that conversation of that the upper echelon of elite quarterbacks in the 2010s. And I think it's so disrespectful because he was so good during those years with the Falcons where he was just tossing 25 touchdowns, throwing for 3,000, 4,000 yards a season, was absolutely surgical when he got in the right frame of mind. When he was on. He was almost unbeatable. And it's just a real shame that his career finished the way it did in Indianapolis. And just that he doesn't get talked about. He's not in the conversation enough of elite quarterbacks in that era. So, but he's one of the guys I really respected on the field. So that was my favorite. Here's my, Derek Jeter. Yeah, he's up there, but one of my favorite athletes, if not my favorite athlete to wear number 2 was Matt Ryan.
There you go. It's a good pick. I like it. And see, the thing is to keep in mind with these lists, this is going to be incredibly subjective. Okay. This is what I'm telling you, when people get to my number 4, so we got a few short episodes, people are going to be pissed off. They're going to be like, are you for real? Or they might not even know who he is. It's very specific to Ryan and I, this list.
They're going to be like this.
Bitch, are you for real?
Probably.
All right, we're going to get ourselves out of here. But before we do that, just want to remind you about our social media channels. Follow us on Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, Twitter, Instagram, the scarcely used TikTok @NoCredsREQ, and on YouTube, YouTube.com/@NoCredsREQ. On the podcast side, subscribe to the podcast wherever you find podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora. And get yourself notified on both Twitter and on YouTube. That way you know when show announcements go up, when new videos go up. That includes the 3 Rails Metro Hockey podcast, clips from the show, 10 good minutes. We're going to start doing that series again very, very soon. Hopefully we'll do that a couple times a month just to kind of keep numbers up. We also got to do some beer reviews too. So
I'm down for that.
We'll talk about that in our production meeting about off air. But also, please, if you're watching on replay on the Belly Up YouTube channel, leave us a comment. On the Rumble channel, leave us a comment. Rate on the podcast side. Rate, review. A 5-star rating would help. A review would help if you're on a platform where you can leave a review. And on Spotify, if you're subscribed, you can leave a comment on present and past episodes of the show. Every one of these helps. The show. We had a record-breaking year last year. We had over 2,500 downloads last year. We're doing really good this year again to start the year. Like we've already had over 250 downloads for this year, and we're only a week into the year. So we're doing really well.
Very happy.
We want to keep the momentum going. We've got a goal of 3,000 this year, but if we get to a certain mark at a certain time, we might keep it going. But we want to thank you and tell a friend. Tell people about the podcast. Word of mouth is always great. Tell a friend about this podcast. It's a short listen, relatively short listen for a sports show, but we want to keep you entertained, but also get you in the discussion. So leave comments, rate, review, all that stuff. Tell a friend. Telegram, telephone, tell a friend, tell a wrestler, as Bruce Pritchard would say. But we're going to get on and up out of here. Saturday show, 10 a.m. on the Belly Up YouTube channel. Hopefully we'll have our Facebook and our Twitter set up by that time too. But in the meantime, thank you for tuning in to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. For Dustin Henry, I'm Ryan McCarthy. Again, we'll be back on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern for our Saturday brunch. We're going to preview the wild card round in the NFL playoffs, baby. Playoffs. It's one of the most wonderful times of the year. Even though it's cold outside, the action's always heated up on No Credentials Required. We'll talk to you on Saturday. Have a great week, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
There it is.
This episode is brought to you by Paramount Plus. Gladiator 2 is now streaming on Paramount Plus. Rated R. Years after the death of Maximus, Lucius is forced into the Colosseum after his home is conquered by tyrannical twin Roman emperors. With the future of the empire at stake, he must find strength and honor to return the glory of Rome to its people. Gladiator 2, now streaming on ParamountPlus.com.